I used to stubbornly and selfishly think for years that no one should ever end the streak, that The Undertaker should go on to be undefeated at WrestleMania, and that should be his lasting legacy or a big portion of the legacy of The Undertaker. And I think part of that comes from me being such a huge Undertaker fan and understanding the fact that he's a guy that's been doing it since I was a small kid. You know, you're talking about when he debuted at Survivor Series 1990. I was 9 years old. Now I'm almost 33, and Undertaker's still doing it. Yes, on a part time basis. Yes, basically only one match a year. But the fact of the matter is, this is a guy that dates back to the Hogan era. This is a guy that once he went from being misused and mistreated down at WCW and he came to the WWF in late 1990, he never left. He never left for more money, like a Scott Hall, a Kevin Nash, a Hulk Hogan, a Macho Man Randy Savage, a Roddy Piper, a Lex Luger, a so on and so forth. He didn't sit there and leave for an extended period of time for 4.5 years due to injuries and other concerns, such as a Shawn Michaels. He didn't sit there and go and want to make movies like The Rock. He didn't sit there and pick up his ball and go home like a Stone Cold Steve Austin. Undertaker was there for it all. He was there at the tail end of the Hogan era. He was there for that new next generation of the WWF when times weren't all that particularly good. But one of the guys that you could count on to deliver, one of the guys that you could really count on to be a star for the company was The Undertaker. He was there for the Attitude Era, and he was an integral big part of the Attitude Era, no question about it. The Ruthless Aggression Era, he was a big part of that. And even heading into the PG era, he's still been a big part of the company. So there's always that part of me that has this ultimate respect for The Undertaker. Now, Hulk Hogan is my greatest favorite wrestler, of all time, and that'll probably never change. However, it is important for me to point out, I feel, that the wrestler I respect more than anybody in the history of the professional wrestling business is easily The Undertaker. That is no disrespect to a Hulk Hogan. That is a no disrespect to The Rock or the Macho Man Randy Savage or an Eddie Guerrero or a Jake the Snake Roberts or any other numerous amount of guys that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. The guy that I have the ultimate respect for is The Undertaker. I view him as the epitome of what a professional wrestler should be. I view him as the epitome of how a professional wrestler should act. I view him as the epitome of how a professional wrestler should treat the professional wrestling business. I view him as the epitome of how a professional wrestler should respect the professional wrestling business. And with that being said, with that being The Undertaker, being that person that loves the business, that respects the business, and is willing to do everything he can to give the business everything that he can, I start to wonder if it is time to entertain the thought that maybe it's time The Undertaker wrap it up. And it's time for somebody to break The Undertaker's streak. Now, I'm not going to sit here and endorse, say, Brock Lesnar doing it because I don't think that's good for business. Why would you have something that you've spent over 2 decades on with The Undertaker? Why would you end that for a part-timer like Brock Lesnar that you don't even know if he's going to be involved with the company 2 years from now? Why would you do that? That would make absolutely no sense. But when you look at the streak, this is something that has been going on effectively since 1991. There's over 2 decades put into this. That's a lot. That is a very long time. There are a lot of things that happen at a WrestleMania, but one thing that you always can be assured of at a WrestleMania is Taker is going to win every year. Now, if an Undertaker was to sit there and go to 23-0 or 25-0 and then exit stage right, how does that really help the professional wrestling business long term? What would the WWE be able to continue to get from the streak and The Undertaker if The Undertaker's no longer there, if he's no longer performing at a WrestleMania? Just think about this for a second. For a guy that has put in over so many talents over the years and has helped so many young guys reach that next level in the WWE for the past 2+ decades, it would seem to be a crime against the business, a crime against the WWE, for him to selfishly keep that streak for himself, to keep that mark for himself, and not pass that legacy on to someone else. I mean, when you think about it, to this day, when people think of a Chris Jericho, they think of him being the first ever undisputed champion, so to speak, in WWF history, even though you could technically argue it was Ric Flair. But it was a career-defining moment, the fact that he beat The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the same night, and he built an entire WWF, WWE career around it. It's that moment, it's that signature thing that no matter what Chris Jericho would do, whether it was good or bad for him, he could always go back to that, and it instantly elevates his profile and reminds everybody of who he is and what he's done and what he's accomplished. It made a star instantly forever, no matter what you did with a Chris Jericho. And you could even look at, let's say, what happened with The Miz. Even the way he's been treated now and the way he's been kind of buried and pushed aside and pushed down the card. The one thing that he still has in his back pocket that not just anyone can place claim to is the fact that he beat John Cena in the main event of a WrestleMania 27. Again, it is a career-defining achievement. You could say, well, the next year The Rock beat him. Yeah, but Miz walked in the champion to WrestleMania 27, and he walked out the champion, and he beat John Cena on top of that. Beating John Cena at WrestleMania is not something a lot of people do, that's for damn sure. And to be able to go in as a heel champion, enter the champion, and leave the champion, it's a defining moment in his career. On top of that, you throw in the fact that he wrestled John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania 27. 5 years from now, you could sit there and have Miz talk about that, and it instantly elevates his profile because it was something that he did. It's a career-defining achievement. So imagine if you were to sit there and take somebody, a young star, like a Bray Wyatt, and you determined you were going to build the company around him, or a Roman Reigns, and you were going to sit there and build the company around him. Imagine if you took one of those two young stars, just as an example, and that doesn't mean that they're the only two guys you could do this with, but they are the two that come to mind the most with me. Because you're looking at guys that fit that profile of who the WWE is going to want to push at the top for many years because you want to get the maximum return on that investment. And they are guys that are young, so that way when they would get in that spot, you still have several years of them doing it. Like, let's say a John Cena ending the streak is stupid because Cena's already 37 his dang self. How many more years is he really going to be a top flight competitor with all the other stuff that he's done over the years? What does it really benefit a John Cena to end the streak? You get a diminishing return by having a John Cena do it. But imagine what it does for a Bray Wyatt or a Roman Reigns. You instantly take their profile and you elevate it several notches, especially if you had an Undertaker wrestle the John Cena at a WrestleMania and Taker beats John Cena. It's the one thing that Cena's never done and he wasn't able to do. Now a Bray Wyatt or a Roman Reigns is able to surpass a John Cena and do something that even he couldn't do. Something that people have tried to do for over 2 damn decades, and they couldn't get the job done. Breaking the Undertaker streak, if you find the right person, the right place, the right time, the right situation, it can not only make a star, it can make a superstar, it can make an icon, it can make a franchise piece of your company for a decade. And when you look at it from the WWE standpoint, you've invested over 20 years into The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. It would not seem to make good business sense to want to eliminate that continuous return on that investment. Imagine if you took that 20 plus years of investment and you just cut it off and say, nope, no more. Taker wins. No more needing to defend it. He walks away undefeated, 23-0, 24-0, 25-0. Then what? You occasionally can sell merch pertaining to it. It's one of those things everybody always talks about. They go with the what ifs. What is that really for the long-term health and benefit of the company? If anything, it sits there and says a guy that dates back to the Hogan era couldn't be beat by all these young, hungry, athletic, talented lions that the WWE is offering today. Again, reminding everybody of what a superstar is and what it used to be, and what the WWE tries to force down your throat as being a superstar now. It would be the ultimate kind of, in my opinion, burial of the current talent roster. And if I'm the WWE, I've got to really sit there and say, look, we've invested over 2 decades into this. Imagine if we did have somebody break the streak. We get another decade out of that investment. And then somebody eventually topples this guy, and we get another decade out of investment there. It's that kind of investment plan that continues to pay out a dividend and continues to bring a return for the WWE. And I have to imagine at some point in time that that's what the WWE is going to want. And frankly, I would think that would be something that the Undertaker would want, because he does respect the business. He does respect himself. And he, above all else, understands that when it's time, I truly believe this, that it's time to do the right thing and you put somebody over on your way out of the territory. Kind of an old school mentality and a philosophy. And if I expect anybody to understand that, and I expect anybody to treat the business with that ultimate type of respect, it is somebody like The Undertaker. And I think about this all the time, and I'm like, it can make an icon. It allows the WWE to get a continuous return on that investment that they've put over 20 years into. It's the ultimate statement by an Undertaker saying that this is the future, this is the guy, the company is in good hands, now it's time for me to exit stage right. It would be like the ultimate show of respect by The Undertaker to the WWE and the wrestling business, and say that it's my time to go, but it's going to be in good hands. And I get all of that. But when all comes to pass, I think sometimes you have to look at things and you say, screw what logic will tell you. You have to say, screw this or screw that. And you just have to do, ultimately, I think, what feels right. And to me, The Undertaker is perhaps the most respected by a combination of fans and people inside of the business. Office people, agents, workers, everybody is probably unanimously the most respected professional wrestler of all time. You hear all these stories about people after they've died, and people really change their tune about them, and they start to speak positively about them. But you remember when they were alive, this person had this to say about him, this person had that to say about him. I think about Macho Man Randy Savage. Once he passed away, so many people changed their tune about him, but when he was alive, they had no problem ragging on him and bashing on him here, there, and everywhere. But when you look at an Undertaker, you just don't hear that. Maybe the occasional very, very fluky thing, but it's so rare and it's so fluky that it just comes across like it sounds like bullshit. But almost everybody to a man appreciates The Undertaker and respects The Undertaker. And I keep this in mind. This is an Undertaker, an individual that could have left the company and would have been well within his right to do that. Because when he started off in the Hogan era, they were making him a star, but they were kind of keeping him down a little bit. But he still became a big star in spite of it. And then as you got to the mid-90s, and he to me was the most captivating, entertaining character that you had, the focus became on people like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and Razor Ramon and Diesel. The Click and Bret Hart. That became the focus. And Undertaker was kind of treated a little bit like he was second class. And it's funny that the people that the WWE, WWF at the time, and Vince McMahon put so much emphasis on and so much energy into trying to make big stars, so many of them turned their back on the company and said, screw you, we're going to Turner for the bigger paychecks, the more guaranteed money, and the reduced workload. And that's what just about all of them did. From the Kevin Nashes, to the Scott Halls, to the Hulk Hogans, to the Macho Man Randy Savages, to the Lex Lugers, and the Bret Harts. But Undertaker stayed. He stayed true to the company. He stayed loyal to the company for so many years. When you brought in a Mankind, he didn't have a problem putting over a Mankind and helping make Mankind a WWF star. When they bring in Glenn Jacobs and they're screwing the pooch with him, eventually they come up with the Kane concept, and Undertaker works with him and helps make him a big star. So many people that Undertaker has helped make big stars over the years. All the while, he could have sat there and taken the easy way out, worked a reduced workload, went back to WCW where he had come from, where they didn't treat him very well, and taken the money and run. But he didn't do that because he had something that to me is truly special. He had that loyalty. He was where he wanted to be, and he wasn't going to sell out. And this is an Undertaker that, keep in mind, has probably cost himself over the years a lot of money by not being more involved in social media, not doing all the shoot interviews, not sitting there and making these vast amounts of public appearances, especially as part of the dead man persona. Now, when he was the American Badass, he did some of that, yes. But for so many years, there were so many other things that I think in part because of his respect for the business, in part maybe trying to help protect the business a little bit and to keep the character alive and fresh in the fans' eyes and keep the mystique of the character alive and fresh, he passed on many of those opportunities that he probably so rightfully deserved. And this is a guy now that you look at it, he's been with the WWE for over 2 decades, and his body is clearly letting him down. And he is at the end of his rope. And he knows that he really only has one really big-time match out of him every single year. And at a time where he could have already stepped away and said, you know what? I don't need this anymore. I love you, Vince. I love this business and I love this company. But I want to go put as many babies in Michelle McCool as possible, and that's what I'm going to do. He doesn't. You could sit there and say, well, Schleg Daddy, he still gets a big payday and da-da-da. But do you really think Undertaker needs some money at this point in time? Sure, he gets himself a big 7-figure payday for Mania and merchandising and royalties and etc. But he still comes back, make no mistake about it, when he doesn't have to, because he loves performing for us. He loves the business. He loves the company, and he takes pride in what he's done for so many years. And he understands still that every year come WrestleMania, especially in today's WWE, that no matter what, there's still a spot for him. And this company, frankly, still needs him. And he understands that at one time a year, he's one of the big draws and he's one of the big attractions. And that if he didn't show up, he would disappoint a lot of people, both outside of the company in terms of fans and, frankly, inside of the company as well. By him returning every year at WrestleMania, by him appearing every year at WrestleMania, even when he doesn't have to, even maybe deep down inside if he really doesn't even want to anymore, he knows that him appearing makes the money better for the company and makes the money better for everybody involved. And at some point in time, I think you throw some of the old wrestling rules out of the rule book, because Undertaker is somebody different. He's somebody special, and he's somebody unique. You could sit there and talk all this shit about, well, all this investment in him over the years, if he doesn't lose, then what does that mean? It means you've got something truly iconic, something truly memorable, and something truly special that I think The Undertaker deserves more than anybody else. He deserves that. For all that he's meant to the professional wrestling business, for all that he's meant to Vince McMahon personally and to the WWF/WWE as a competitor and as a business, he deserves that ability to say, you know what? I don't think anybody should ever break the streak. 25-0 sounds good to me. It's something that it will always be a part of the WrestleMania story. Because even when you get to it, and let's say you did have a John Cena or a Bray Wyatt or a Roman Reigns do it, it's like you did it all of these years and you created this monster that kept growing upon itself just to eventually let the air out of it. And that doesn't do any good for anybody. It's just ultimately like Undertaker was just another guy. He had a great run, but at the end, he just couldn't get it done. 24-1. It just doesn't have the ring to it. But boy, oh boy, 25-0 does. You can make a ton of money every WrestleMania season with DVDs, with merchandise, and etc. You could have a Taker make the occasional WrestleMania appearance. There are ways to do it where you can still make money and still continue to get your good returns off of that 2-decade-plus investment. But I think sometimes it's about more than just money. It's about respect. And it's about showing respect to the people that deserve that respect the most. I think if you asked Vincent Kennedy McMahon to this day, and you asked him the people that he respects the most in the professional wrestling business that he's ever worked with, he's ever been associated with, I would almost be stunned if either number 1 or number 2 wasn't The Undertaker. I'd be completely stunned. Why do you think Vince McMahon allows The Undertaker to work a very, 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 very light schedule and basically says you only have to wrestle WrestleMania every year and that is it? You know, the bottom line is is I get what all the logic says, and I get what a lot of people say, is that all good things must come to an end. But you know what? To me, it doesn't apply in this case because Taker is different. And Taker means something different to me. And I know I'm not the only one because there are a lot of other fans just like me that if Taker did end up losing at a WrestleMania, it might be the ultimate stake in the heart, the ultimate dagger in the back that would make us stop watching the WWE and professional wrestling as a whole. It might sound like an empty threat or an empty promise that's not going to be fulfilled, but you'd probably be surprised. There are a lot of people now to this day that the only reason they would get a WrestleMania is because the Undertaker is going to be there. So imagine all the goodwill you would give them. If an Undertaker never lost at a WrestleMania, it would be like saying, hey, thanks for getting WrestleMania all these years. Thanks for being a fan all these years. Even though we've run you away, you tuned in for him. We treated you with respect and with dignity, and we treated your man with respect and dignity, and we made sure that he got something that only he's ever going to get. With all of the pounding down our throats a guy like a Triple H has gotten for so many years, and all the pounding down our throats a guy like a John Cena has gotten for so many years, and all the great accomplishments and honors bestowed upon people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Hulk Hogan and so on and so forth. Why can't The Undertaker get something that is truly his? Why can't he get something where he is actually the one that is rightfully referred to, not Shawn Michaels, and not even my hero Hulk Hogan, as the real, true Mr. WrestleMania? I think it would be a shame, and I think it would be a crime if the Undertaker's streak ever ended. And I realize that a lot of people might disagree with me, but just like so many things, I don't care. Because I know to me that for so many years, one of the real reasons I even stuck with this WWE through all the times that they've tried to drive me away, and through all the times that it felt like they weren't entertaining me, through all the times that they felt like they were insulting my intelligence, one of the few things that kept me around for over 2 decades was The Undertaker. And to me, when you look at, again, all the people that left and he never did, all the people that always seem to have trouble putting other people over, that Taker didn't have that trouble. When you look at all the crap and all the garbage that these other people have put you through, that The Undertaker hasn't put you through, I think it's only fair and it's only right that the ultimate honor be bestowed upon The Undertaker and that he be allowed to retire 25-0 or whatever he wants to decide to walk away and have nobody ever end the streak. Because frankly, even if you did have somebody like a Bray Wyatt or a Roman Reigns ultimately end the streak, you also run the risk of alienating them with the fans and alienating a lot of people that like your product that may very well not anymore, because they will always look at a Bray Wyatt or a Roman Reigns and they will view them as the individual that ended their dream. They will view them as the individual that drove away one of their favorites, one of their icons. And that's a hell of a burden to carry. And that's a hell of a cross to bear. And I don't know if anybody, even the WWE's hero John Cena, can quite shoulder that burden. I hope the WWE does the right thing ultimately and never asks Undertaker to do the job at WrestleMania, because it is the right thing. And it's not just so much a right thing for business, it's just the right thing to do.